Hey, good morning, up and Adam. Yes, it is. It is Monday, the 7th of July. So, girls, so what are we going to be talking about today? Well, I thought we'd just kind of do a hodgepodge of things of, machines, what you're going to see during a normal summer when machines come in, to ones that you should turn down, to how to build your business better. I was out in the sun most of the day yesterday, and I can't get warm this morning, so I got 3 layers of clothes on, and it's 70 degrees out. So hang tight, and we'll get her going. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, and yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Monday, July 7th of 2025. So, where should we start in this hodgepodge of things? Well, the first one I think we'll tackle is what are common things that you're going to see during summer? You have your normal service in the spring, right? At least most of my customers do. Or they have a fall service. But that leaves them with the point of where we last serviced it to when they started having issues. And I think probably the biggest issue that we see is not cleaning the deck. They let the grass grow up on it, and then it starts throwing belts on them. And actually, I've seen where we just chewed belts up because they couldn't get around the pulleys. And the hay would get in between and end up screwing up the belt. So that would be the first biggest thing is the decks. Is whether it's underneath scraping it because you're out mowing and got a fresh dew or a recent rain and it's packed so tight in there that all you got just enough room for the blade to go around. We've seen that before. So keeping the deck clean, top and bottom, is a must. If you want to keep your lawnmower going long periods, long times in between services, that's the first thing you should do. Invest in an air hose if you're a do-it-yourselfer, and every other time you mow, get a blowgun with a long tip on it, and then just blow all the grass off the deck, and then check underneath it too to see if it's starting to build up with grass. My recommendations would be don't mow wet grass, whether it's a dew still on it or if it's rained recently. That just adds trouble to more work on your blades, more work on your belts, more work on your PTO clutch or your hand clutch pulleys. Something's going to give. And I have to tell this to a few of my customers every year, is lawnmowers are not meant to do hayfields. That's why people have haying equipment. But every year I get this, it's not working right. The blades come to a stop. And then I go over and see what he's doing, and the friggin' hay is tall enough to do a first cut to put in the bales for the cows. And he's out there trying to mow it with the zero turn. That's not what they're made for. So that would be the first thing. Anything to do with the deck, whether it's belts, crud on top, or a build up underneath. The next common thing is keyways. Yeah, you would. Some of the shops that I know never experience it, but we seem to where it throws it at a time. And it's because the keyway didn't get sheared. It just got bent enough, so it's throwing it out just a little bit. So that would be the second thing. The third thing would be valves. You need to make adjusting the valves as part of your service. That machine, at least once a year, should have the valves adjusted and just figure it into your cost of doing your spring or fall service. Anything with overhead valves are going to wear, and that's usually the first thing to give you issues, because if the valves are too loose, you aren't going to build compression. If they're too tight, it's going to have that that trying to get it to start. So that takes us to the next thing. Well, what else would cause that? Well, if your needle and seat are left open and you don't have an electric shut off on the bottom of that carburetor, or you do and it's non-functioning because you cut it off because didn't want to replace it, there's a good chance that that fuel is either going to end up in the base or in the head. If it's in the head, you will come to a deadhead when it comes to trying to turn that engine over. And if it does something like that, most people think, aha, it's the battery, and they'll go out and buy a brand new battery and take their perfectly good one in and swap it. First thing to do, take spark plug out. Take spark plug out and then turn it over. If you see gas shooting 15, 20 yards out, you know that the friggin' head was right full of fuel. If you go to check the oil level on your machine, which you should do every time, right? If you find that it's over full and it's really thin, then it's gone into the base. And I've had customers that would fill their gas tank before they put it away and then tell me that it won't work, but they didn't notice that half their gas is gone already and it's down in the base or in the head. So that's another thing that is a common occurrence, is the needle in the seat not setting right and the fuel shutoff either being bypassed or non-functional. Next thing, coils. Coils can kind of give you the runaround, but the best way I can tell you is get a spark tester, actually 2 or 3. On your twin cylinders, hook them both up and look to see if both are giving a good strong spark. And we do that because you look, and if there's one that's not pulling its weight, tendency is a more orangeous fire than a lighter yellow. And that tells me that the coil is breaking down. Now, what I do just to make sure that it's not my equipment is I switch the testers and put the one that was showing yellow on that one that was showing orange and vice versa. And I start it up, and if it's still showing orange on the right side and still bright yellow on the left side, I know it's the right side coil is not doing what it should be. And that could be simply taking some emery cloth and cleaning up the coil and on the pickup, on the flywheel. That'll save you a lot of problems. But those are just things that you're going to see common. Belts are another one. Belts are only made to go so long. And what our tendency is here at the shop is if we think it might last another season, we let the customer know the belt's not in that great a shape, but we think you can get through this season. And if it doesn't, then what I do is I just go out to where they are and replace the belt. I charge them for the belt, but not my time, because I felt it could get through the summer. That is a rare occurrence of where we have to go out and redo. And that's the biggest thing that will kill your shop quickly, is redos. And you need to be able to recognize and look at crapola when it shows up on your doorstep. You have to have the mentality of saying, look, I can't fix everything. And your shop has to remain profitable, right? If you're not profitable, you're not going to be there, and all your customers are not going to have you guys to help fix their crap, right? So you have to remain profitable. That means you need to sit down and figure out what are your expenses. Get on an Excel sheet, all your expenses for the month, and then put down all the expenses for parts, what you need for equipment for the shop that you're adding to, maybe some hand tools or whatever, but figure that up too. And then figure up your utilities, your lights, water if you have it, sewer if you have it, all the night, get it on that sheet. Now, at the bottom of that sheet, put down all the jobs that you got and how much it paid. And then figure out how much money came in, how much money went out, and then are you $1 profitable or are you $100 in the negative? Because I've been in the negative before at times and thought I should have been profiting. But I forgot, oh shoot, I had to buy 2 tires for that guy's machine. And I had to buy that Predator motor from Harbor Freight for that guy's tiller. And you start forgetting those things, even though you're paying them every month, right? You're paying it off. But your customers need for you to remain profitable. And if you're not profitable, they won't have any other place but to go somewhere else to try to get their machines done. But you need to be able to spot a turd. And what's a turd? A turd is something that will cost you an arm and a leg to try to get running, and it's not worth it. It's always going to be a turd. It's a POS. And I've had numerous customers over the year bring us one of those and want us to fix it. I'm always, what's your budget? Because anything can be fixed, but I can give you a stupid number on a Tractor Supply entry level Troy built with a 42-inch pressed cookie cutter deck. If how deep you want me to go. And a lot of people say, well, I can't afford a lot. Well, maybe you should learn how to fix it then. Because you're bringing me a turd that's going to cost more than if you went to Tractor Supply and asked for a credit and bought yourself a new one. That's spotting turds. And the other thing that I recommend that you do is you learn to spot people. Because the cost is only half of it, right? It's the people you're doing it for. And if you got somebody that's never happy or outspoken, and runs to everybody telling them how your business sucks, get rid of them. Have them go somewhere else to your competing business, and then he can say how they suck. You don't need those people. I've taken people like that other shops have warned me about. I've taken them on and had it work out okay. But I said right in the very beginning is I run the shop the way I expect to run the shop, and I will fix what you need fixed, but if it's going to be over a certain amount, I will call you. I treat your machine just like it's my own, and it is what it is. But before we sink a lot of money into it, you will get a call. And just by being upfront in the very beginning with your customer, explaining how the system works, it isn't just dropped off and magically with Claude out there with a wand doing the repairs. There's a process in there. And I can tell people on a normal service, you're looking at $200 to $250. That's oil change, spark plugs, fuel filter, oil filter, blow the air filter out, transmission levels brought up, and everything greased and the belts checked. Anything above and beyond replacing belts, pulleys, all that stuff costs money. And if you want, I will give you an itemized bill of what we need to buy before we spend a dime on it. Because if you don't want to pay that bill, I'm not spending the money to fix it. So the best thing in your shop actually is honesty. Even for those knuckleheads that you're going to have. If they don't like how you come across, there's the road. I'm sorry that I have to be that way, but I'm running a business, and I can't have somebody else telling me how I should run my business and have it be a negative at the end of the repairs versus a positive. I know what it costs to fix that, and I know what you have to be charged in order for us to fix that and come away with even a small profit. So those are the things that you really have to look out for when you're running a shop. Even do-it-yourselfers, take this to heart, because when you start doing stuff, El Cheapy Cheapos are going to be looking you up because you're so much cheaper than the so-called repair shops that are doing it for a living. So they're going to be chintzy, and they want it fixed for a little bit of nothing. And they're also the ones that will bitch and complain until you finally say, look, just take it. Because you can't deal with it anymore. I've done that before. But when I've done that, that customer cannot drop anything else off. We're done. You had your chance to be a good customer, and you're not worth my time. Go find somebody else to fix it. You don't need to be a hard ass about it, but with certain people you do. You need to point it right out and put it right out in front of them. And for those people, a lot of them respect it. They respect you for at least your honesty. They may take their machine and go somewhere else. That's fine. But in the end, you have to remain profitable. And you can't remain profitable if you're fixing your buddies' machines, your family members' machines, and doing pro bono on half the elderly in your area and then think you're going to make a profit. You can't. I always tell my family that I charge double. But I used to do that. I used to do freebies. And it's taking away from the business. And at the end of the year, I have to figure out profits and loss, right? And it's nice to be that good person. And I highly recommend that it's not always all business. If you can help somebody out, help them out. And I can give you a prime example of just last week. There's a nurse that has been going through cancer treatments. She's younger. She's in her 40s, early 40s. I think she went to school with my son. But she's got 3 young girls. And she's been going back and forth. And you can see that she's whipped. She's thin as but she's working. And she was telling me she was having problems with her push mower. It wouldn't shut off, and she had to take it into tall grass to get it to stop. And wanted to know, would I charge you to fix it? And I said, well, I'll just grab it on my way by and see what the problem is. Because she was going to drop it off, but she has a little car. So Claude and I picked it up. And it ended up being the wire was burnt off where it went to the coil to the shutoff to ground it. So we put a new wire in and put it inside a fuel tubes to kind of keep the wear and tear away from it. Then we found that the blade was totally shot. Put a new blade on it. The air filter was totally shot. Put a new air filter. The bracket that holds the carburetor and the air filter onto the machine was broke. It was a metal thing. So Claude took it and brazed everything back together. We got it put back together. Runs great, shuts off, because the 2 girls are old enough to mow the yard. And all I could picture was having them go backwards and fall. And that mower, when they let go of that shut off, not shutting off. And you can lose toes in a hurry. So safety is always number one. So I saw her a couple days later, and she said, because she's a nurse over where my wife is inpatient. And I told my wife, tell her that I've got her mower. So she called her girls and says, the mower's missing. Eric's got it over at the shop. So when I showed up for visiting hours, she's like, how are you coming with the mower? I said, it's all done and all back. She said, well, what do I owe you? I said, you don't owe me anything. She goes, yeah, I got to pay you. No, you don't. With her running back and forth, 4.5 hour trip and chemo and radiation, you help whenever you can help. But I do that as a business. Claude still gets paid. I still have to buy all the parts. But I'm going to pick and choose who to help. Me, and only me. So, doing those things for others is great. And doing it for the right reasons. Okay? Because the people that I do it for nothing for are either on a fixed income. The one guy across the road, he gets $600 and some a month. And I helped him get set up with HEAP for fuel oil and SNAP benefits. And he's 87 years old. We do it as a favor. I can't do it for everybody, because parts cost money. But you as a business owner, I always feel that what comes around goes around. It can't be all business all the time. You also have to have a sense of community. If you take care of your community, they will take care of you. It's as simple as that. It is. So on that note, you guys have a great Monday. Put in the comments, different ones that you come across that you got rid of or you'd like to get rid of, and you need some examples of what to tell them. I can just hardly wait for Jason on this one. Or Amos. Well, put in the comments, what you think about today's episode. If you do it yourself, or this episode is just as important to you as it is somebody running a full service shop, because we're both going to incur the same things. You, on the other hand, it's gravy money, right? The money you got into it is just your time and the parts that you have to buy. And you're not relying on it for a living. Most of you aren't. You just enjoy doing it. But even doing that, you need to be very careful of who you take on for customers. Because I've seen customers take advantage of do-it-yourselfers and think that machine they bought from you should be warranted for life for the one you fix for them. Any problem after that point, it was your fault and you need to fix it. Bullcrap. So on that note, we'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks again so much for watching.